Did you know that Canada is currently under attack right now? That wealthy foreign interests have banded together to wage war on Canadian democracy? Well, I didn't know either until yesterday when our nation's leader told all of Canada from a grocery store that Canada is in fact on a war footing in the fight to save democracy. If you're anything like me, you now have two questions. The first question would be, who exactly are these wealthy foreign belligerents waging war on our great nation? And the second question would be, is this the man leading us into battle? Is this the Winston Churchill of our time? To answer the second question first, the answer is unfortunately yes. And to answer the first question, well, these wealthy foreign belligerents happen to be those evil, nasty tech giants, Google and Meta. You know, those exact same tech companies that worked hand in hand with the Canadian government during the pandemic to censor accurate information? Well, the comrades in the fight against truth have now turned on each other because Justin Trudeau's insatiable appetite to censor the internet, to crush independent digital media, and stuff the pockets of failing legacy media outlets in exchange for positive headlines is simply unmatched. And according to Canada's newest wartime Prime Minister, the fight against Meta is comparable to Canada's fight against Germany in World War II.
They made the wrong choice by deciding to attack Canada. We want to defend democracy. This is what we're doing across the world, such as supporting Ukraine. This is what we've done during the Second World War. This is what we're doing every single day in the United Nations. And I know that Canadians will not be bullied by billionaires in the US, billionaires that are impacting negatively our democracy. We will have a strong stance with that. We're not alone.
If Canada's fight against Facebook in the so-called war for democracy really is comparable to Canada's fight against Germany in World War II, am I the only one questioning what side exactly Justin Trudeau is on? Let me know in the comments, drop a like on the video, help us out by subscribing to the True North YouTube channel, stick around for the Ratio of the Week prize, and the comment question for the episode is this: how will you access news now that links will be disappearing on Google and Facebook? Let me know in the comments, and let's get into it. Bill C-18, what exactly is the Online News Act? Well, simply put, Bill C-18 is a bill that will force Google and Meta to pay news companies every time a link to a story is posted on Google or Meta. C-18 is the second piece of censorship legislation in Justin Trudeau's censorship trifecta to be passed and become official law. C-11, as you're well aware, became law a few months ago. Bill C-11 forces companies like Google to suppress content that the government deems to be not sufficiently Canadian enough and promote, of course, trusted Canadian content. That obviously means content that is in line with the federal government's vision. Ultimately, content that is not deemed Canadian enough would be content like what you're watching right now, a show like Ratio. Bill C-18, on the other hand, has a different effect. Bill C-18 is essentially a money grab with a censorship layer hidden underneath. C-18 is just another attempt to stuff the pockets of failing legacy media outlets which routinely write positive headlines for the government. We already know that newspapers like the National Post, the Toronto Star, and all of their failing subsidiaries receive government bailouts to the tune of, in some cases, tens of millions of taxpayer dollars. But of course, that just simply isn't enough for these failing legacy media companies to be able to turn a profit. On top of sending our taxpayer dollars, of which we are taxed far too much already, to these companies, the federal government devised a strategy to get Google and Facebook to pay these companies. And just like the passage of Bill C-11, this federal government that apparently stands proudly for the values of democracy rammed through Bill C-18 and forcefully shut down debate. In fact, in the middle of an MP debating the bill, the federal government interrupted him and rammed the bill through the House of Commons and forced it through the Senate. Now, the censorship angle of Bill C-18 is quite simple. The government has known for months, if not years, that passing a bill like this would result in Facebook and Google either completely blocking news links on their platforms or heavily restricting access to news on both of these platforms. This only benefits established legacy media news outlets that don't have to rely on generating ad revenue and site traffic. News outlets like the CBC, like the National Post, and like the Toronto Star. Meanwhile, digital media outlets like True North, rely exclusively on social outreach, on email outreach and social media platforms to share our work. The government isn't stupid. They know this. They've known this for a long time. And as organizations like True North have grown to become a larger problem for the sitting government, they have now amped up their efforts to destroy digital media in Canada. And it's not just a hypothesis that C-18 will only benefit large broadcasters, the ones that are already heavily subsidized. It's written so plainly in the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report from last year. From the Globe and Mail last October. The analysis by the PBO, an independent body that provides economic and financial analysis to MPs and senators, concluded that newspapers and online media would get $81.5 million a year, while broadcasters such as the CBC, Bell, Shaw, and Rogers stand to get $247,677,000 if the bill becomes law. The government has known this for months. They've also known that Facebook will be pulling links from their platform. But that didn't stop them at all. In fact, it only seems to have turbocharged the federal government's push to make C-18 law. Why? Well, it's exactly what they want. And despite knowing all of this, for months, if not years, Canada's El Censor, Juan Pablo Rodriguez, has been going on CNN and other foreign media outlets talking about how Canada is standing up for democracy and local news.
Without this bill, those web giants would not make deals or with platforms, so it's absolutely necessary to move forward, because in Canada, about 500 newsrooms closed their doors in the last few years, big or small, in cities or rural communities, and it's a huge problem for our democracy.
The most ironic part about Bill C-18 has to be the fact that while Justin Trudeau accuses Meta of attacking Canadian democracy to levels comparable to that of our fight against Germany in World War II, the Liberal Party of Canada is running ads on the platform. As Michael Geist, the media law professor at the University of Ottawa, rightly points out on his blog, if it were truly comparable to a world war, then surely the Liberal Party, joined by the NDP, would not continue to advertise on the platform. Yet since the 2021 election, the party alone has run approximately 11,000 ads on Facebook and Instagram. Ads like this one, which are currently active on Meta and were launched not too long ago. Despite Rodriguez trying to sound tough and claim that the government of Canada has pulled ads on Meta, well, the Liberal Party has no problem working with Meta despite the fact that their own leader has accused them of attacking Canadian democracy. The final piece of legislation that will complete the censorship trifecta for Justin Trudeau is the yet-to-be reintroduced online harms bill. The government plans to introduce amendments to the criminal code which will make posting what the government determines to be hate speech illegal. Now, you don't need to be a genius to figure out exactly how the government plans to use a piece of legislation like that to control conversations online. In fact, just look at what happens to our friends in the United Kingdom if they happen to post a meme that flies a bit too close to the target. Well, the cops show up at your front door. Now, all of this brings us to the most important part of this episode, the most crucial part of this episode. How can you break through the walls of censorship being put up around us in this country? The government wants to stop you from getting your news from Google, the search engine you most likely use. They also want to stop you from seeing True North links on Facebook. As you know, big tech is not to be trusted. They have signaled their intent to comply and have already begun doing that. So here's what you can do. you can go to tnc.news/subscribe. The link is in the description of this video, but you can also just type it in to your search bar, tnc.news/subscribe. And that way you can get all True North content delivered to your inbox daily. You can also get our exclusive podcasts and news shows, whether it be this show, Ratio, the Andrew Lawton Show, the Alberta Roundup, the Rupa Subramanya Show, or of course our daily news morning show, The Daily Brief. We are entering a new digital age in this country, and that is why we all need to step up and figure out how to bypass these efforts to not only silence us, but deprive us of information and the news we need to know. That's why you need to go to tnc.news/subscribe. You can do so in the link in the description of this video and get on our newsletter. It is important, it is crucial, and it is a must. All right, now it's time for the ratio of the week. Let's get into it. All right, the winner this week is Globe and Mail Politics, along with, maybe we can give it to both of them actually, Globe and Mail Politics with Juan Pablo Rodriguez, the man responsible for spearheading Bill C-18, Bill C-11, and likely the online harms bill. On June 30th, Globe and Mail Politics on Twitter got brutally ratioed. Take a look at this. Google's plan to block news links could put lives in danger as wildfires rage, minister warns. 1,283 replies to only 466 likes at the time of this recording. And to really add emphasis to this tweet, a good old community notes fact check by Twitter. Google has clearly stated that changes in response to Bill C-18 will not affect emergency alerts or provincial government emergency feeds. The hyperbole from Juan Pablo Rodriguez and Justin Trudeau, our two leading field marshals in the fight for democracy, it turns out, is outrageous. Trudeau comparing the fight against Meta to World War II, Juan Pablo Rodriguez saying that Google blocking news will put Canadians' lives at risk because of wildfires? Give me a break. Corey Jinkowski writes, I knew climate change would be brought into this fight. This government's playbook is just too easy to read at this point. They got to switch it up for us. Give us some new, fresh ideas, guys. Come on. Emotional blackmail, narcissistic staple. And this is from Lion Advocacy. Canada's First Minister of Propaganda tries desperate new tactic to rescue failed legislation initiative. Fix the headline for you. Much more accurate headline. Clear, concise, to the point. That's exactly how Canadian news should be done. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for us this week on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Harrison Faulkner, and this is Ratio.